Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to briefly take you through the course at a glance guide in the course and exam description. So why don't you take out your course and exam binder and open up to pages, I believe it's 22 and 23. Really believe that the course at a glance guide is going to be so helpful to you when you are planning out your year and planning out your units. So let's take a look at this. So you should be looking at a page that looks something like this. Okay. And you'll see when you look at the course at a glance guide, you'll see it's divided into 8 columns or units. And each of those units, of course, has a title. At the top, of each unit, you will see how many recommended class periods they recommend that you spend on the unit. Now, those recommendations are based on a 45-minute class period. So if you look at the first unit, Chemistry of Life, they recommend between 5 and 7 class periods. So let's figure this out. So 5 times 45, that's 225 minutes. Let's divide that by 60. So that would be just under 4 hours. Now, that sounds kind of quick to me, but if we did the 7 class periods, 7 times 45, that's 315 minutes. Divide that by 60. That comes out to about 5 1/4 hours, okay? So for me personally, I would probably spend about 6 hours on that unit, including like a 1 hour unit exam, because in my situation at my school, about half my students either have not had chemistry at all or might be taking chemistry concurrently. So I would want to spend a little bit more time on that. In addition to the recommended pacing to class periods, you also see percentages here that tell you how much of the exam, what percentage of the exam is going to be based on that unit. And then underneath each unit, you have the subtopics listed. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit and let's look at the course at a glance guide a little more closely for Unit 1, Chemistry of Life. So again, you see the 5 to 7 45-minute class periods. It's going to make up between 8 and 11% of the exam. And underneath the title of the unit, you have the different subtopics that you should teach in those units. And the first one in Chemistry of Life is the structure of water and hydrogen bonding. Now, you'll notice there are colored squares next to each topic in the course at a glance guide. Each of those colored squares represents a different course skill or science practice. So what they're saying here is that teaching the structure of water and hydrogen bonding is an ideal time, a great time to go over the skill of making and interpreting visual representations with your students. Okay. You'll also see that those science practices are spiraled throughout the course. There are multiple opportunities for you to help your students master those science practices under a variety of topics. You'll also see these little black boxes. That sounds kind of funny, black boxes, next to each of the topics under the units. Those represent one of the 4 big ideas. Contrary to what some people were saying in the Twitterverse last year, the big ideas are not going away. And just like with the core skills or science practices, the big ideas are also spiraled throughout the course. So SYI stands for systems interactions. You'll see there are multiple places where you can review systems interactions with your students. So how would we do that with water and hydrogen bonding? How does water interact with other molecules? How does water cause systems to interact with each other? Okay. At the bottom of each unit, you have the information about the personal progress check that you can find in AP Classroom. And we'll talk more about AP Classroom later. The personal progress checks, I personally like to assign them about 4 or 5 days before my students take their unit exam on that particular unit. So they can go through do the personal progress check, verify what they know, see what they need to work on a little harder, and then have time to come back to me and get extra help, extra instruction from me where their weak spots are. So the personal progress check for Unit 1 has 20 multiple choice questions, 2 free response, 1 on conceptual analysis, and 1 on analyzing models or visual representations. And you'll notice it says partial. And the reason for that is at the beginning of the course, it's pretty hard to expect students to be able to do well on a full length free response question that's similar to what they're going to see on the AP exam in May, because a lot of those free response questions deal with more than one unit, more than one topic. So the free response questions at the beginning of the course are generally, I think, easier than the free response questions in personal progress checks for units, say 6, 7, or 8. And I think that's entirely appropriate because we want to push the kids so that they learn the stuff and get the skills, but we don't want to push them so hard that they get discouraged and think the course is just impossible and throw their hands up. All right? Okay. So next thing I want you to do, if you go to our Google Classroom, under links for day 1, you'll see a link to this document, which is called the treasure map for the course guide. So I'd like you to pull this up and go through the 10 questions or checkpoints and use your course at a glance guide to answer these 10 questions. All right, so go ahead and pause the video and then restart me when you're ready. Take about 5-10 minutes to answer these questions. Okay, welcome back. So checkpoint number 1, what do the colors of the skill categories represent? The different science practices. Checkpoint number 2, what are the small boxes in each column? Each small box is a subtopic, excuse me, within a unit. Checkpoint number 3, how many units are there for the entire year? 8. Why do you think they're sequenced in that order? Now, there's no one right answer to that question. I would think they're sequenced in that order because they go from the most basic to the most complex, that the later units build upon knowledge that was gained in the previous units. Checkpoint 4, where is the suggested pacing found? At the top, where it says the number of class periods. Checkpoint 5, which 2 units have the most topics? Okay, and which 2 have the least? Well, the 2 that have the most are units 2 and 7, cell structure and function, and natural selection. And the 2 that have the least are units 1 and 2, 1 being the chemistry of life, excuse me, not 1 and 2, 1 and 5. 1 being the chemistry of life, and 5 being heredity. Checkpoint 6, what's the information at the bottom of the column telling you? It's telling you about what's available in the personal progress check. Number 7, under each unit title, there are percentages. What do those percentages mean? Those percentages tell you what percentage of the exam is going to be based off of that unit. Checkpoint 8, what do you think is measured in the personal progress check? They basically measure the student's progress on the topics in that unit and on the skills. Checkpoint 9, which unit has the highest weighting on the AP exam? That would be unit number 7, natural selection. And checkpoint 10, how is the building of skills displayed across the units? So the skills, you can see them, the little colored boxes, in multiple units as you go across the course at a glance guide. Okay, so that's the course at a glance guide. I really encourage you to take a look at that when you divide up your school calendar and try to decide, okay, how many weeks am I going to spend on this topic? How many on that topic? How many on that topic? So I find the course at a glance guide to be a really useful document when I'm planning out my school calendar for year. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and I'll see you next time. Bye.